Hi everyone, welcome back to another session of admin training series. So in this one, I'm going to tell you about junction objects that we have in Salesforce. So if you have watched the previous sessions on relationships in Salesforce, you would already be knowing that why do we create a lookup relationship or why do we create a master detail relationship, right? And I would suggest you that if you haven't watched those videos, if you don't have idea on master detail relationship, or if you don't know about a lookup relationship, then I don't think that this session is going to be much helpful for you. So I would suggest you to go back and watch those videos and then come back to this one. All right. So in Salesforce, in order to actually achieve many-to-many relationships, we have something called junction objects. So don't worry about it. Let's just proceed step by step and understand that. Like I'll revise for you that what is a many-to-many relationship, and why do we create junction object, and how do we create and manage that in Salesforce. All right. So let's just have a look at the agenda first. So we'll talk about what is many-to-many relationship, and then moving forward, we'll see why do we create junction objects in Salesforce, and then we'll see how to create the junction object in Salesforce. And we will also check out some of the junction object features that we have. All right. And all of these steps we are going to do along with an example. So I'm going to start explaining each and every topic with two tables, or you can say two objects example that I have for you. So let me just move to that. So this is the two table that I have. Okay, this is my project table and this is my employees table. Okay, so in this scenario, just imagine that if you're working in a company, okay, if you're working in a company, then, and let's say one project has been assigned to you, right? But I'm not sure how much, like, you know about the structure of your own organization or company, but it is very common for an employee, like a senior employee, to work in multiple projects. Okay, so it is possible that one employee can work in multiple projects. Okay, so in this case, if we actually see the relationship, try to figure out and break it down, that what kind of relationship does project object and employee object has, then what would it be? So let's just start from project to employees, and then we'll see from employees to project. Okay, so project one, let's say for example project one. Okay, so one project will not have just one employee, right? One member. It will have multiple members, right? So for example, in project one, Angela is working in project one, and also John is working in project one, right? So that means one project is associated to multiple employees. Okay, now if I see this relationship from employees to the project side, then how does it go? So for example, if I talk about, let's say, Mark. Okay, so if Mark is working in project two, then Mark can also work for project 4 at the same time. Okay, so Mark can be associated with multiple projects. He is not limited to just one project. Okay, and the similar case can happen with a lot of other employees. If you have 1,000 employees in your organization, maybe out of 1,000 employees, maybe 200 or 400, or, like, depending on what kind of organization it is, how huge or massive the projects are, and depending on the criticality, one resource can be actually deployed to multiple projects at the same time. Okay, so let's say if I try to fit the data from one table to another table. Okay, let's say that okay, here I am just going to create. Okay, so let's say if I want to mention that let me here mention project. Okay, so let's say if I mention project, and if I want to mention that Robert is working in project one. Okay, project one, and let's say Ceci is working in project 3. Okay, and Angela is working in project 5. Then this guy is working in project 3. And let's just put someone in project 2. So let's say project 2. Okay. So now what is the issue here? The issue is that, as I said, right, that Mark is working in project 3, that is fine, but Mark is also deployed to project 4. That means Mark is also working in project 4, right? So this information is not sufficient. So you might be thinking, okay, let's just add another row, right? So if I add this row here, and here, because I had to add one more data for Mark, that he works in project 4 as well. So now we have Mark and Mark. Okay, so Mark is working in project 3 and also he's working in project 4. Okay, but just look at the other data. Okay, you are repeating a lot of information, right? You're repeating the employee ID, you're repeating the name, you're repeating the phone number, you're repeating the email. Okay, just to maintain one extra detail, right? So this is not, I mean, this is nothing but it is leading to the data redundancy, right? Like repetition of data. All right, so you should be basically avoiding um such kind of like data entry in your object or in your table, so that you can keep your database much more cleaner and easy to read and understand, rather than maintaining such a complex and not so good structure. Okay, so and the similar case will happen here. Let's say I'm going to remove this. Okay, so let's say if I try to maintain the same information on the project side. Okay, so let's say if I try to, let me insert one more column here. Okay, and let's say if I try to mention member here. Okay, let's say I'm giving here as member. I'm calling employees as members because that, I mean, just used to it. Okay, so so let's say if I, so project one. Okay, let's say in project one, Robert works in project one. Okay, so let me just type here Robert, or let me just mention his employee ID. It's fine. Okay, employee one. Okay, and then let's say project two, employee three works in project two, three, and then employee four, employee five, employee two. But let's say, so who Mark is employee four, right? Employee four. So Mark is tagged here in project three. But now, as I said, right, that Mark is also working in project four. So what will you do? Again, you will end up on the same thing. You would want to create another row entering a lot of repetitive data just to enter one extra detail, right? So as we know that it is a many to many relationship, because multiple employees can be working in a single project, and multiple multiple employees can be working in multiple projects. If I just say everything into one line, and if you just break it down, then one project will have multiple employees, and one employee can work in multiple projects. Okay, so that is nothing but a many to many relationship. All right, so in such cases, how do you actually handle these kind of things in Salesforce? Okay, so for as we had discussed earlier, right, for one to one, we don't need to create another table, right? One to one relationship is something that can be maintained in one single table itself. For example, employee name and employee email, right? So it can be just maintained into one table, one to one. And for one to many and many to one, we already saw that we have lookup relationship fields and we have master detail relationship fields, right? But for many to many relationship, what we would actually do in Salesforce, so that we can achieve and we can reach to a single point where we are not actually having any kind of data redundancy in the table, but we are still maintaining the data. So in such cases, you are not going to create any fields neither on this object nor on this object. Okay, you don't have to, because if you remember, in case of lookup relationship and master detail, we were establishing the relationship between two objects by creating a relationship field, right? Either a lookup relationship field or a master detail relationship field, correct? But in this case, in many to many, you don't have to create any fields on either of these objects. Rather, you have to create a new object and you have to call that object as a junction object. Okay, that is what a junction object is in Salesforce. Now the second question is, what are you going to maintain in that junction object? Okay, so let me just create a table here. Sorry, let me remove this. Okay, so all right, I'm just going to copy this. Okay, or I don't need this many info. I'll just copy this here. Okay, so I would be creating a new object, which is nothing but a junction object. And that junction object, let me call it as project employee or project member, whatever you want to call, you can call it whatever makes more sense to you, so that you'll be able to identify that particular object is a junction object between which objects, right? So project and member, and let me just call it employee, that's fine, employee object. Okay, so this is my junction object. Okay, this is my junction object. And in my junction object, I would be maintaining the references from the project and the employee. Okay, so let's say that for project one, okay, so let me start from here. So let's say employee one, okay. So employee one is working in project one, project one, okay. And then okay, and then employee two is working in project three, but employee one is also working in project four. Okay, and then we can give few extra details such as employee 4 is working in project 2. Okay, all right, so what do you understand by this? This simply says that you are actually not maintaining any repetitive data in your junction table, but rather you have established relationships between the two tables. And by maintaining those relationships, the records that you would be creating in this junction object, by seeing those records, you will be able to understand that who is related to what. So for example, if I see this junction object, if I see the records of this junction object, I would get to know that, okay, employee 1 is associated to project 1, and then employee 1 is also associated to project 4, without maintaining any other repetitive data. Okay, so this is how you can actually maintain many to many relationship. This is nothing but a junction object. Now the other question is that once you have created the junction object, how are you going to create these two fields, right? Because you would have to create these two fields, right? Which is nothing but, I mean, if I talk in the relational database management system language, then this is nothing but the foreign keys. Okay, this project key is coming from where? It is coming from the projects table, and this project code is nothing but a primary key here. Okay, and here it is acting as a foreign key. And same goes with the employee ID. Employee ID is a primary key here, but here it is a foreign key, correct? But as you know that in Salesforce, we don't have any concept of primary key or foreign key. Then how would you be creating these two fields on the junction object? So you have to create two master detail relationship fields. All right. So when you will create the junction object, after that, you will be creating two master detail relationship fields on the junction object. The first master detail relationship field will be related to the object project, and the second one is going to be related to the project employee. Okay. Now, the question is that why are we creating master detail relationship field? Okay, so let's just go ahead and check this out. Okay, so this is we already discussed many to many relationship. What is it? And then why do we create junction object in Salesforce? In order to achieve many to many relationship. Okay, and then how to create junction object in Salesforce, create a new object, and then create two master detail relationship fields with respect to both the objects. Now, what is the reason of creating two master detail relationship field? Okay, so let's say if I go back here, okay, and now just imagine that if someone goes and deletes, let's say if someone goes and one second, let me just give one more example here so it will be easier to understand. Okay, let's project 1 and yeah. Okay, so let's say now somebody goes and if they delete project 1, if this row is completely deleted from this table, but in your junction object, let's say if you have created a lookup relationship, okay, so if you have deleted project 1 and all its details, but then the reference or the record that you had actually created for employee 1 is still going to be there in the system, correct? But what do you want? You want that if any of these references are deleted from any of these tables, then any record that you have created with those references in the junction object, that should be deleted too. So if project 1 is deleted, then anywhere, wherever you have created a record for project 1, for example, this one and then this one, these two rows should be deleted as well from this junction object. because that is the best thing to maintain the data, right? Otherwise you will just have unnecessary data in your junction table, correct? And you don't want that. Let's just not call it table, but try to if you're talking about in in Salesforce, then always call a table as object, so that will be easier for you, so that um I mean, it's easy to consider, to take it in a habit to call it a object rather than a table. Okay, so if anybody deletes any data, any project one, let's say project one data from project object, then that should be deleted from the junction object as well. And if, let's say, for example, project 4, if somebody goes and deletes this particular data from project object, then whatever reference wherever this reference was there in the junction object record, that should be deleted as well. So this should be deleted as well, right? And where, in which kind of relationship field this functionality is by default? In master detail, right? Because in master detail, if you create the master, the child gets deleted too, right? And as in this junction object case, you would be creating two master detail relationship fields, right? One for this and one for this. So in the first case, this is going to be the master and this is going to be the child. Okay, so the first master detail relationship field that you will create, first master detail relationship that you will create, what will be the scenario here? Project would be the master, okay? And this junction object, okay? Junction object will be the detail. Basically nothing, this is parent and this is child, okay? And the second master detail field that you would be creating, second master detail relationship field that you would be creating, what will happen here? Here, employee is going to be your master, employee object is going to be your master, and then again here, this table, okay? Junction table is going to be your detail object, right? So you have two master detail relationship fields on this junction object, and in both the cases, in one of the cases, this is the master and this is the child. In the other case, this one is the master and this is the child, okay? And in both the cases, let's say if you delete E1, then any difference with E1 is going to get deleted. So if you delete E1 from here, then this row will be deleted and this row will be deleted as well, okay? That is what will happen in master detail relationship, and that is the actual requirement that we want to have, because here we are just maintaining the references, right? We are not actually deleting any actual data, but we are actually, because we are just maintaining the association between these two tables, and once one association has been deleted from the source, then that should be removed from here as well, right? There is no point of, let's say if project 1 does not exist, then there is no point of keeping project 1 references in this table, correct? If the project itself does not exist, okay? So this was one of the I hope that you are understanding the basic concepts. So for now, just keep two things in mind. That in case of, in order to achieve many to many relationship, you would have to create another object in order to associate two objects, okay? Two objects which are related to each other by many to many relationship, and this third object that you would be creating will be called a junction object. And then in junction, once you have created the junction object, you still have to create relationships between those two objects, right? And those, in order to create the relationship on the junction object with the other two objects, you have to create two master detail relationship fields on the junction object, okay? And for those two master detail relationship fields, in both the cases, junction object is going to be the child, because you are creating those two fields on the junction object, right? And wherever you are creating the field, that is, you always create a relationship field on the child, right? On the mini side, correct? So so that is the basic fundamental behind junction objects. But let's just go ahead and see what are the considerations, okay? So here I'm not actually going ahead with this point right now, but let's just go ahead and create a junction object in Salesforce, and then I will explain you these 2 points, and also some of the considerations that you have to keep in mind while you're working with junction objects. So I'll move to the org and I'm going to create a junction object. So here I have project and employees, okay? So I already have two objects, employees and projects. And as I've mentioned, because I am maintaining a many-to-many relationship, I have to create a third object, right? Because that is how you actually create a junction object, okay? So let's just go ahead and create a junction object. So I have moved to, if you want to move to object manager, click on the gear icon, click on setup, and then click on object manager. Once your object manager, click on create and then custom object. So here, So whatever the name you would be giving, I mean, something that makes sense. So for example, in this case, I want to give it as a project employee table, something like that. Project employee, project employee details, or I'll just name it as junction. Okay, here, this is the project employees details. This is something that will be actually displayed as the label, right? So that is why you need to give a sensible name to that as well. Okay, so this is okay, and then save. All right, so junction object is created. Now I will go ahead and what was the second step? We have to create two master detail relationship fields on the junction object. Okay, so I will go to fields and relationship, and with respect to what I have to create master detail relationship, I have two parents, right? One is project and one is employee. So I'm going ahead and creating one for project. Okay, so sorry. So this is the junction object, and I'll go ahead and create a new field, which is nothing, which will be a master detail relationship field. Okay, master detail relationship field. So let's just take project first, project. All right, and let's just keep the name as same as project. As this is master detail, that is why every profile will have the default visibility, because it will be required, okay, to fill. And then save and new, because I have to create another field. Okay, and I have kept this field on the layout. So I have already created a master detail relationship with project. Now I'm going to create another master detail relationship field with employee. Okay, so employee. So here, master detail relationship, employee. All right, employee, next, 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 and save. Okay. All right, so I have, like, my setup is done. I have created a junction object. Okay, and in that junction object, I have created two master detail relationship fields, one for each object, among which I want to, between which I want to create an association. Okay, employee and project. So this is employee and this is project. Two master detail relationship fields has been created. Okay, now I want this particular object, I want to create a tab for this particular object so that I can show you the records here. Okay, so let's just go ahead and create a tab. If you already know how to create a tab, it's good, but if you don't know, you can just follow right now and then you'll know how to create it. So I'm going to create a new tab for this object, project employee junction. I'll just choose any logo, building block or anything. All right. As I'm proceeding blindly, when you are working on requirements in your projects, like, do not do this. You have to check, like, to which app you have to give the access for this tab, like, all of these things you need to check. Okay. All right, so now I also want to add this tab to my app. Okay, this is my app, admin training. I mean, it is there, but I want to add it here in the navigation menu. Okay, so app manager. This is my admin training app. And here I'll go to the navigation items here. Project employee details. This is already here. So let me just move it to here. Okay, and save this. All right, so I think we are all set. Now let's just go ahead and try it out. So let me just first refresh this. All right, so I have both the objects, right? Employee and projects, and I also have kept the junction object here, okay? So now the whole funda for creating junction object, the whole agenda for creating the junction object was to, so that like, we'll be able to create records in junction object so that we can maintain such kind of association, okay? So before I go ahead and create few records in junction object, I will go and create few data in the project and employee table because I don't have any data. So I'll just go ahead and create that quickly. So let's say employees. All right. So let's say Robert and Angela. Employee. Robert. Save and new. I'll create one more. Yeah. Let me just create one more. And save. Okay. So I have 3 employees. Now I'll go ahead and create some projects. Okay. Yeah. So let's say project. What was the detail that we had maintained here? Project 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So let's just keep anything for now. Okay. Because we just have to understand the association. So I'm not filling out any other details. Save and new. And project 2. Project 2. Project 3. Okay. And that's it. So now I have data in my employee object and also in the project object. Now I'll go to the junction object and I'll create associations. Okay. So I'll click on new. So here, okay. So the way we have maintained, right? The project and the employee association, okay. So here, I'll give any name. Let's say 001, okay. This is something which, this is like every time we create an object, right? We create a custom object. There is one name field which is always required and it comes by default when you create an object. So that is what this field is. We did not create it, okay. It's a standard field and you have to like, you can also make it like auto number, I believe. Yes, you can make it as auto number, but I mean, I have not done that. So that is why I'm just filling some value over here. Now, if you see, because we have created 2 master detail relationships on this junction object. So those 2 were project and employee. And if you see, both are required, right? Because these are master detail relationship fields, okay? So I will start with one project, okay? So let's say project 1, and then here, Mark, okay? So Mark works for project 1, okay? So save and new, okay? Let's just create one more. So 002. And then the record that I previously created was for Mark, okay? So let's say Mark again. And I had associated Mark to project 1. But here, now if you see, I can associate him to project 2 as well, okay? Then save and new. So you just saw, right, that I associated Mark to 2 different projects, okay? I just created 2 records of the junction object. Now I can do something like this. So let's say if project 2, and then if I, similarly, I can do like, the same thing for, so Angela, and then save and new. And again for project 2, I will assign somebody else as well, okay? So project 2, and then Robert, let's say, okay, save. Now, if I go here, these are the 4 records that I created, okay? So now let's just create a new list view so that we can see everything from here itself, okay? Rather than clicking and going into the details. So here I'm going to create a new view for myself, okay? My view, save, and I'm going to add the fields to display. So I want to see the employee and I want to see the project, okay? And save. All right, look at this, okay? So Mark is working in project 1. Mark is working in project 2 as well. Angela is also working in project 2. Robert is also working in project 2, right? So you can see how beautifully many to many relationship has been like, handled here without any repetitive information. You are not actually maintaining any other information here. If you go and see the detail section, you don't have any, like, it's, if he's related to project one, that doesn't mean that you have every information of project one here itself. It's just, it is providing a reference, and you can click here and you can go to the, like, you can navigate to the project and see the project details, right? So it's better. So and similarly, if you want to see the employee details, you can click on the employee and you can navigate to the employee. Okay. So this is how you can create a junction object. Okay. Let me change the view. This is how you can create. And also, if you actually go here, okay. Okay. It's, I believe it should have actually, okay. It will be on project, right? Here you see. So ignore these two. These are something that I have created for something else. Okay. So when I navigated to the project, it is showing me the project employee junction object related list. Okay. And if I actually move to the junction object, because it has to, because if you are on a project one, it has to show the associations, right? That who and all are working in project one, correct? So that is why it is showing me this. Okay. If I go here, so this is the employee that is assigned to project 2. Now let's say if I go to project 2, because in project 2 we had multiple people assigned, right? I believe, yes. So you see 1, 3 and 4. There are, and this view also you can change. If you, let's say if you want to change this view, okay? So let me because right now we are only able to see the numbers that I gave, right? The names that I gave to the junction object record when I was creating them. So let's say if you want to see other details, that who is the employee name who is assigned to this particular project, right? If you want to see that, you can go to the page layout of the project and you can actually modify this. So I'll show you how to do that. So you are on project page layout, right? This is project page layout. So you have to navigate to the project page layout. You have to go to the related list, and then from there you can add columns. So we'll go to the project. Here we are on the, okay, let's just go to the project object. All right, and then we'll go to the layout here, then related list, and this one. Okay, here you can, if you want, see employee company, if you want to. So I want to see employee name, right? So employee, hold on. Okay, so let me just include few fields, and then employee company, and what is the detail on the employee? If I go to the employee, this is employee name, right? So it should show me name. Okay, here it is. Employee name, okay? So let's just only show this, okay? Because everything else we have there, because we are already on the project. So let me click on okay, quick save and reset. Okay, so now if I go here and if I refresh, if I go to the project, open project 2 and refresh, I will be able to see the employee names, okay? Here, if I refresh this, here, okay? So now just by seeing the junction object related list, you'll be able to figure out that who and all are there, like, are assigned to project 2, okay? So here I can see that Mark is assigned to project 2, Angela is assigned to project 2, and Robert is assigned to project 2, okay? And similarly, if you go to employee, okay? Yeah. Okay, let me go from here, okay? I'll go to employee, employee layout, then related list, okay? All right, it's here. Then why is it not visible? Okay, let me first include some name. Here I will include project name. Okay. So that just by looking at the employee, I'll be able to see that how many projects he is assigned to. Okay, save, right? And then I will go ahead and refresh the employees layout. Okay, this side is the details. Sorry, here. So see, Mark is assigned to, why is it showing me 0101? I think I assigned Mark to this project multiple times. Okay, so I'm going to delete this and I'm going to assign Mark to project 2, and then we'll go to Mark's record and see what happens. Okay, so let's just go to project 2, or let's just create one more for Mark and project 2. Okay, so 005 here, project 2 and Mark. Okay, and save. Now if I go to Mark's page layout here, if I check here, see, project 2. Okay, the both I mean, I've assigned him 2 times into, like, multiple projects. Okay, so let's just keep this open and then assign him to a different project. Okay, so I'll click on new and let's just choose another project first. Sorry. Yeah, new. And project, let's just say project 1. Okay, and here Mark and 006 and save. All right, let's just go to Mark again and then check. All right, so here, yes, now it is showing correct. So project 1, and I created 2 records, like, assigning him to project 2. That is why it is showing 2 records. But, like, this is how you can see the associations. Okay, so basically once you have created the relationship using the junction object, okay, you can actually go to the, like, go to respective objects, and you can see who is actually, like, assigned to what. So for example, these relationships you are seeing from here, right? But it's not that every time you have to go to the junction object in order to figure out that who is assigned to what project. You don't have to do that. Just by visiting the employee record or just by visiting the project, you will be able to see. Okay, so the way I, like, navigated to project, so let's say if I go to project 2, then I will be able to see that who and all are assigned to project 2, right? See, these people are assigned to project 2. And similarly, if I navigate to employees, I will be able to see that which project they are assigned to. Okay, so if I go to Angela and if I click on here, I can see that which project she's assigned to. She's assigned to project 2. Okay, so this is how, like, the relationship, junction object relationship flows in Salesforce. Now let's just, like, move ahead. We spent a lot of time here, but let's just move ahead with the next topic. Okay. Okay, so there's a fundamental around primary relationship field and secondary relationship field in junction objects. Okay, so first I'll explain you that what these two things are, and then we'll go to the sharing and setting. Then you will understand that why we are actually, like, discussing these two topics. Okay, so what is a primary relationship field and what is a secondary relationship field? So if I go to the junction object, okay, so here so basically on a junction object, whatever master detail relationship field you create first, that is your primary master relationship field. Okay, and whatever you create after creating the first one, like, second, that will be your secondary master relationship field. Okay, so here if I show you on this object, okay, what was the name? Employee, this one. Okay, employee junction object, and here this is the one I had created first. Okay, this field I created first. So whatever field, whatever master detail field you create first, that becomes the primary relationship. Okay, primary relationship field, and whatever you create after that, that becomes the secondary relationship field. Okay, now why is this so important? Okay, so let's just go ahead to one of the records. So if you guys remember what happens in a master detail relationship, if you delete a master record, the child records will be deleted, right? And if you actually create a child record and associate it to a master record, then if you remember one of the points, that owner field from the child record gets disappeared, because owner of a child is derived from the master record. Okay, so here if I show you this. Okay, let's just understand from here. Okay, so this is master and this is child, let's say, right? I mean, this is master, this is child, and in this case this is master and this is child. Okay, so now let's say if I have created a record, okay, and in that record this is my master and this is my child. So whoever is like, and who will be the owner of that record? Okay, if I go and show you the sorry if I'm confusing you, but if I show you one of these junction records, okay, this is my junction record. Who is the owner of the junction record? So in the previous case, when we were studying master detail relationship, you knew that whoever is the owner of the master record, that the same person will be the owner of the child record. But here the case is different because this child has two masters. Okay, if I go here and show you this particular object or any records that you would be creating, that will have two masters, right? One project and other one is employee. Then who will be the owner? The owner will be from the primary relationship field. Okay, so let's just go ahead and check it out. Who is the owner? I don't have the, okay, you cannot basically check, it disappears. Okay, it disappears, but the owner will be from the, because in this our case what we did, we had created the employee master detail relationship first, right? So in our case, employee becomes the primary relationship field. So whoever is the owner of the employee, the same person will be the owner of this junction record. Okay, this child record. All right, so who is the owner of this one? I created this record, so I am the owner, right? So similarly, because I created the employee master detail relationship first, that is nothing but my primary relationship field. And as per the rules that Salesforce has defined for junction object, the owner of the junction object record will be derived from the primary relation object. Okay, and in this case, who is the primary master relation object here? It is employee, right? So whoever is the owner of the employee, the same person will be the owner of this particular junction child record. Okay, this junction record is nothing but the child record, correct? So now that is one point. The second point is then what is the use of secondary relationship? I mean, if you actually think, then I mean, if everything is like, because the look and feel also like, of the layout actually is derived from the primary relationship object. Okay, primary relationship field, then what is the use of the secondary relationship field? Okay, so let's just go here and check. Okay, so this one we already discussed. All right, so this one, sharing and settings. So just tell me one thing. Let's say you logged into the org, you are able to see this project record, but you are not able to see this particular employee record. So if let's just go from here, project one and employee one. Employee one is assigned to project one, but you are in the org. If you actually navigate to employee object, you are seeing the employee one object, but you are not able to see the project one. You don't have the visibility. You don't have the enough permission to view project one record. Okay, then what will happen? You will not be able to see this record. In short, if I go here, this is my junction object record, right? If let's say I have if I click on here, I'm able to see marks details, right? But let's say if I click on project one, then it gives me some message that you don't have enough access to view projects information. That means I don't have the access to project, but I have the access to mark. So what will happen in that case? If that is the case behind the scenes, okay, if you have access to to access to view employees record, but you don't have the access to view projects record, then you will not be able to see this whole record itself. Okay, so basically sharing and setting is derived from primary object and the secondary object combined together. Okay, it is not that, okay, you have access to project one so that you will be able to see the junction object. No, you should also have access to marks details. Okay, you should have enough permission to check out marks details, then only you will be able to see this particular junction record. Otherwise you will not have the visibility to this particular junction record. Okay, if you'll actually go here, so if this is 006, you will, even though 006 will exist in the system, but you will not see 006 when you log into this system. Okay, because one of the records of 006, you don't have the visibility to that. Okay, so that is where secondary what was it called, secondary relationship field comes into picture. Because when it comes to sharing settings, both the relationship sharing settings are considered. when giving the sharing settings to the providing the sharing settings to the junction object. All right, so these were the main points. We can just revise it really quick. So we know that when you have to establish many to many relationship, you have to create a junction object. And how will you actually create a junction object? You have to, it is created like a normal object, right? You just create a normal object, a third object, you will call it a junction object. And basically that any junction object, right? If you just forget about the whole thing, whatever we discussed, but if you see any object having two master detail relationships, that means that object is a junction object. Okay, so here the same thing, right? So when you have created for many to many relationship, you will create a junction object, and in that object you will be creating two master detail relationship fields. So the for both the objects, right, between which you want to associate the create an association, create a relationship. Okay, and the first relationship, the first master detail that you would be creating, that would be called primary master. The second that you would be creating, that will be called secondary master relationship field. Okay, and owner will be derived from the primary master relationship field. Okay, so whoever is the owner of the primary master relationship field, the same person will be the owner of your junction record. Okay, because that is your child record. Okay, but in terms of sharing and setting, you need to have the visibility to both the objects in order to see the complete junction object. Otherwise you will not see a particular record if you are missing any of the access. All right, so I think I think that's all for the junction objects in Salesforce. I hope that you got the basic. I think I went as slow as I could, but if you have any doubts, if there is anything that you did not understand, if you're still confused about, if you're not able to understand what is many to many relationship, please drop a comment in the comment section, and tell me where you are actually stuck, because this is a pretty clear example. Okay, but if you're not able to understand with this example, let me know, I'll try to give other examples. Okay, but this is very important to clear your concepts, because if you're not able to figure out a many to many relationship, then you will never be able to reach to creating a junction object, right? First of all, you need to actually identify that what kind of relationship is there between two objects. And if you find out that it's many to many, then you have to create a junction object to basically keep the associations between these two objects, so that you can create associated association records, right? And then understanding the fundamental of primary master and secondary master, I already told you that why it is important. When you want to know that, for example, this particular record, who is the owner of this particular child record, so if you know the concept of primary and secondary master, then you will be able to answer. This might be an interview question. Okay, that in a junction object, if you have created a junction record, then who is going to be the owner of that particular junction record, that particular junction child record? Then you have to explain what that particular junction child records owner will be the same as of the primary master's owner. Okay, now they might ask another question, that what do you mean by primary master relationship field, and what do you mean by secondary master relationship field? Then you have to you have to explain that, in a junction object, whatever master detail relationship field you create first, it could be anything, right? I mean, I created employee first, but it was not mandatory. I could have created a master detail relationship with project first on this object. Okay, it's not, because it's many to many, so there is no sequence here. Okay, but whatever you create first, that becomes the primary, and then whatever you creates after that becomes the secondary. Okay, so in terms of deriving the owner of the junction child record, that is derived from the primary, whichever is the primary master relationship field in your case. Okay, and but when you're talking about sharing setting, and so then in terms of sharing setting, it will be decided by checking the visibility on both the objects. Okay, if you don't have the visibility on E1, but you have the visibility on project 1, you will still not be able to see this one. You need to have visibility for this record as well and this record as well, then only you will be able to see this record. All right, and then this record, and let's say for this one, you need to have visibility on this particular record, and project 4, this particular record. But if you are restricted to access any of these records, to view any of these records, then you will not be able to see the junction object record. Okay, I think that's all about junction objects. I will try to create a practice set, but I don't really think that we need a practice set for this. But if you have, let's say if you're working on any of the requirements, and if you have any existing scenarios where you're not able to figure out that what kind of relationship it is between two objects, and if you're stuck somewhere and you're not able to basically decide and proceed, because I think the concepts, how to create it, but you might still get stuck in deciding that what kind of relationship it is. So you can put those questions in the comment section and I'll try to answer. So that's all for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next session.